A.C. Mohan, and I am a former professor of cardiology from University of Delhi and currently consultant emeritus in Fortis Hospital, Shalimar Bagh. We would talk a little bit about the role of left ventricle global longitudinal strain in cardiovascular disease. As you know that the current appropriateness guidelines suggest that we should be using left ventricle longitudinal strain in detection of etiology, making a diagnosis, prognosis and follow-up of patient with cardiovascular disease, and the criteria suggest that this may be an appropriate way of going forward. So it is nothing but relative shortening fraction of the left ventricle in longitudinal view, but the advantage is that it runs ahead of left ventricle ejection fraction and also provides phase dependent incremental information in the form of constructive work, wasted work or inefficient work. The large number of studies which have been done which have shown incremental benefit largely in patients with heart failure, asymptomatic moderate and severe valvular heart disease, in patients with heart transplantation, in patients who actually are undergoing chemotherapy, assessment of diastolic function, assessment of right ventricle function, differentiating physiological from pathological left ventricle hypertrophy, and also to understand new physiology and incremental information. Although the large scale randomized outcome data are still not available, it seems a very promising tool because it is operator friendly, it is fine tuned, it is robust, it is objective, and is definitely providing us new and better information. The second thing which I want to talk to you is about aortic stenosis. Aortic stenosis is a major epidemiologic problem in the current world. 2% of the entire adult population above the age of 65 years has aortic stenosis, and it progressively increases as the age advances, and above the 80 years of age 10% people have aortic stenosis. Aortic stenosis shortens life, reduces the quality of life, and hence it is necessary that we understand what to do with these patients with aortic stenosis. One of the important issues now that we have non-surgical ways in the form of TAVR, it is important to understand who are these guys who should undergo TAVR or SAVR, and are there some patients whom actually where we don't have adequate data or who can wait. One of the categories of aortic stenosis is a low gradient aortic stenosis. Typically, severe aortic stenosis has a mean gradient above 40 millimeter mercury and a peak velocity about 4 meters per second, and of course the flow which is more than 35 ml per meter square. If any of these criteria are not there along with the aortic valve area less than 1 centimeter, you call it low gradient low flow aortic stenosis, or paradoxically low flow low gradient aortic stenosis when the left ventricle ejection fraction normal but still the flow is low and the gradients are low. Typically we have seen that 50% of these cases are as a result of erroneous assessment of aortic stenosis by echo, but there are some patients, let's say 15 to 20%, who truly have low gradient low flow aortic stenosis. Quite often natural history they behave more like moderate aortic stenosis, and hence the guidelines suggest a class 2 indication for surgery in these people even if they are symptomatic, and in asymptomatic most of the time it is suggested these should be followed up because data suggests many of these low gradient aortic stenosis in evolution go on to become high grade aortic stenosis over a period of time, then requiring surgery. The third part of the story which I want to discuss with you is about viability, myocardial viability and its implications. Oxford Dictionary suggests that the viability is something capacity to perform, act, succeed or sustain, and hence in clinical practice myocardial viability means that the tissue is still carrying on the cellular function activity, mitochondrial membrane is intact, cell membrane is intact, but its contractile function is reduced and is absent. Now that typically happens as a result of repetitive ischemia or chronic ischemia, and you call it either hibernation or stunning. And usually it is characterized by tissue dedifferentiation in the form of fetal phenotype, and eventually there is a long-standing ischemia, long-standing hibernation, some degree of interstitial fibrosis takes place. How do we decide tissue is viable and the function will come back with revascularization? Multiple ways of looking at things are there. That could be clinical methods, so ECG, echo, nuclear method, CT, MRI. All in all, the point is that in case you can show some contractile reserve in the tissue, or its thickness is more than, let's say, 6 millimeter of the segment, then chances are that this is a viable tissue. We can check the metabolism by positive emission tomography, we can check the perfusion by myocardial contrast echo, by thallium or system EB scan, and also by first pass MRI scan. Having done this thing, what is the best way? The best way will be a low dose of vitamin echo combined with MRI to get the optimal results in clinical practice, although other methods are available, and depending upon local expertise, those can be used. But we need to keep in mind that there is a big issue, and the big issue is whether viability should be the gatekeeper of revascularization. And for this, actually, whatever studies are available have been controversial. Viability remains an important issue for cardiologists in general, physicians in particular, but we still don't have a clear answer that in patients with coronary artery disease ischemic cardiomyopathy, viability must be demonstrated before revascularization. We obviously need more data, longer follow-up, more prospective randomized studies with a priori standardized viability assessment. Thank you very much.